Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video first to appear on YouTube Live. Thank you for watching. It's meant for you because you're watching, and Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, Core New Core, anyone interested in surviving as a Pilates instructor, and anyone interested in using core new tension in their own movement or the instruction of other movement outside the realm of Pilates. So, I just have two titles today in my broadcast, and one is about spin. So I should have been prepared and had my tops up. In a workshop that I remember fondly were two young brothers. They were probably 4 or 5, okay? And I had a top that has my ink pen on it that makes counter swirls, but I had a top. And I said I had a problem getting the top to work. And this was to I don't know, 20 people maybe. And the boys were right up in front, and you live or die with your younger audience. They either work with you or against you and trying to help you present what you have to present. And so I had this problem of a top I couldn't get to work. And so I asked the two boys if they could help me figure it out, and I took the top where everyone could see, and I held it up with a finger, and when I let go of the finger, the top fell over. And I said, let me try again. And so I tried again, and the same thing happened, and by this time the boys are incredulous, and I say, well, do you know how to make it work? And of course they said, you spin it. You spin it. And spin is rotation, right? And for a top to be a top, or for a top to actually stay in place on its point, it has to be in rotation. It's a physics thing. And so the grip at the hip is a rotation, and all of the endpoints in the body, up and down, right, are endpoints of rotation that the body is capable of producing dynamic tension around. You know, each endpoint is an axis. Each endpoint is an axis. But when you can only see the point of it, that's the endpoint of the axis. And I tell you this, or I share these words with you, for you to make of them your own, instead of trying to invent the wheel all over again. Take what's there and use it to the best of your advantage, and then add to that. In physics and particles, they have either a spin one way or a spin the other. Galaxies, of course, have spin, and I've used those in my promotional materials. Right? There's a picture of a galaxy for you. And on the other side is a picture of a storm over the ocean. You know, a hurricane, but a hurricane that has two parts to it. One rotation being part of another one rotating in the opposite direction. So, core new tension exists in the world out there. It manifests itself in the world out there and in the body in here. And spin is a part of rotation or a kind of rotation. It's a stabilizing rotation in that case, right? Because for a top, you spin it to stabilize it. And for your body, you make rotational dynamics and connect them to each other to distribute the load of the body, to make the muscular engagement more even, so that the weight of the body is borne more uniformly by what the body is capable of doing in terms of muscular engagement and all of the structural support that goes with that. Okay. And then, so my number 2 is, the way I wrote it was reach for real. Reach for real. And it goes back to previous discussion about art and real and dance and Pilates and the ideal that, in my opinion, Pilates reaches to express. And it can be yours too. I'm just saying that there's all kinds of opinions that have no semblance to mine at all. And I'm just saying that, in my view, when you read Joe's book and you do his exercises, you're reaching for some of the ideals that he points to, like parallel arms and legs in the teaser, like straight or round. Ideals that you seek to make real in the expression of your movement, meant to be an exercise, a conditioning exercise, to prepare you for whatever comes up in the world out there, you know, in the gravity jungle. So know your target, I'm summing up with. Know your target as a Pilates instructor, and for all there is to know in your brain about stuff, for all of the knowing that there is and there is yet to be thought out, right? But for all of the knowledge, the knowing, the thinking, that can seek to overwhelm the essence of what it is, which is the mind, yes, but the body too, and the listener. And the listener is not the thinker. And however you want to divide up those capacities within the human being, and whatever you want to attribute those capacities to, for the instructor, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. Because for me, I'm seeking to accomplish Joe's definition. Contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And in the effort of achieving the control of that complete coordination, that's my target. And to the extent that Joe writes that you have to be completely concentrated on the purpose of the exercise as you're doing it, when I got to that point in my notes, I realized it would be interesting to just make a broadcast taking a tour through the sequence of the mat or of the reformer or of the sequences that exist in Joe's original work on the chair and on the Cadillac. And explore the purpose of the exercise in and of itself and within the context of the sequence, right? I'm not in my head ready to do that yet, but the purpose of the exercise. What is the purpose? And for me, if my mind isn't absorbed in striving to achieve an ideal, my mind gets lost in forever being mental, rather than having to listen to what I sense, listen to your sensation, observe, concentrate, right? All of that presence, be in the moment that's required, in my opinion, to actually have the experience of Pilates. And that experience, a race car driver can say, I get that when I'm going 165 miles an hour. Or a dancer can say on stage that I get that complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit when I'm performing. Or a teacher in front of a chalkboard could say the same thing, in that their physicality is with chalk in hand and not necessarily behind a device and not necessarily expressing art primarily, more perhaps intellect, but that complete coordination, the experience is a human experience, not restricted to any kind of activity to get to that experience. Pilates is a method, it's a choreography that you pursue I'd rather say it's a choreography that you perform in the pursuit of the experience, which to me, is a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing, right? It's all of that. You have to be fully concentrated on the purpose of the exercise. What is the purpose? And to me, the whole purpose of the sequence that you see is a reflection of the physics that the body finds itself in. And the body seeks to move in an ideal plane, flexion to extension. And then in terms of the space that it lives in, 3D, an ideal plane to the side, perpendicular to this plane, right, idealizes 3 dimensions that we participate in physically in our body. And to the extent that you explore range in those 2 planes first, it creates the space in which you explore rotation, and ideally expressed as possible. So, fully concentrate on the purpose of the exercise. For me, part of the purpose is the ideal expression of the exercise. And that ideal takes into consideration what is supposed to be straight and what is supposed to be curved, and how is the curve supposed to exist, and where does the curve connect to straight, and how is that connection controlled. Like neck pull on the mat, like flat back, short box on the reformer. I mean, you're holding hips, shoulders, and ears in line while you're pivoting at this point. And pivoting is another rotation word. So from your grip at the hips, you're controlling the grip at your hips, holding the point of rotation of your hips in line with, actually, it's more holding your ears and your shoulders in line with your hips as you move. Just an example of trying to hold a straight line while rotating at a particular place. Knee stretches on the reformer, holding round back, holding around from hips, shoulders to ears, those 3 points on a smooth curve, connected to each other through core new tension, but holding that curve while you articulate the femurs off of the hips. There's so much happening in the biology working to articulate control in the physics. Right? On the reformer and the footwork, you're articulating your femurs off of your hips, and your hips stay stable. In the stomach massage, you're doing the same thing. You're articulating your femurs off of your hips. But then when you elevate to a chair or sit on the short box with your feet under a strap, now your femurs are fixed in place, and the challenge is to control the articulation of the pelvis off of stable femurs. What's the purpose of the hundreds? What's the purpose of the exercise? Well, I mostly think of it in 3 ways. The pumping of the arms, I gotta think of the third. The pumping of the arms makes my heart beat, and so that gets my blood flowing. The suspension of the legs in space is a load that challenges and allows me to develop my grip at the hips, engagement of the core, and for me, out to the metatarsals. So instead of locked knees and pointed toes, which is one way of trying to get more uniform usage, I let go of the locked knees and engage in metatarsals, because it facilitates more uniform engagement throughout my body, not just from my metatarsals to my hips. So arms, legs, and I think I'm picking one by chance, but in the anticipation of what is to come in the roll-up, in the hundreds you're working at being able to crease at your sternum, because if you can't crease at your sternum, you'll never accomplish the ability to roll up. Right? You have to be able to bend. So, and for me on the reformer, my purpose in hundreds is to get to the point not where I'm going to be rolling up, but where I'm going to be rolling over, which is harder even though you're using the reformer, because the weight of your lower body is heavier rolling over your head than it is your upper body, your head to roll up and get past your hips. Just my opinion maybe, but to me the roll-up comes after the hundreds because it's lighter and you're anchored at your hips still. The reason the rollover comes in as an intermediate exercise is because you're anchoring at your shoulders and controlling all the weight of your body from your shoulder anchor out through your toes, or your metatarsals. The purpose of the exercise. clarifies your focus in doing the exercise and invites you to do it to the best of your ability because you know the purpose. And those muscles on your thighs that are on the outside, that are some of the last acts you want to be engaged when I'm doing the hundreds. It's when you end up realizing, okay, now I've got all of the muscles engaged to the best of my ability, and here I am doing the exercise. It's like achieving that level of control draws you into what comes next. And then the more you know, the more I turn it into a 3 repetition process of performing the sequence. In the first effort, you're making a feel of it and just getting it done. It's a crude kind of an effort. And in the second repetition of the same exercise, you're making as refined of an effort as you can, like as much control as you can. And the third expression is more for art than it is for control. Funny I say that after all this discussion about art and Pilates. But I mean one where you're more totally absorbed in the listening of it and the participation in doing it, whereas in the second one, the administration of the effort, the will, is there in more of a heavy-handed way than in a participatory way. Do it, will it, and then explore it. And in my note, mostly the target of the exercise for me is the experience. And everything that I know about Pilates and all that I know about the purpose of the exercises is for me to know as an instructor and to use to the best of my ability to enhance the student's experience in having fun. Because if they don't have fun, they're not going to come back. No matter what they know, and no matter what you teach them intellectually, it's got to be fun. And so there's heavy rein and a tight bit in a horse reference to what you release about everything that you know and understand and all that you could deliver, both in sensation and in teaching. All of that you deliver to the extent that it's best for your student's experience. And for me, that's having fun. Because if I'm not having fun, I'm not coming back. And if they're not having fun, they're not coming back. No matter what else you make of the experience. And to me, the truth of the matter is, Pilates is total fun because it's about the complete coordination of your body's capability, your mind's capability, and your listener's capability, and have control of that. You know, after you're in the pursuit of making real the ideal, beyond that, it's all derivative. It all is what you make of it from there. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines. You has to do that. No one can do that for you. No one ever really does that. So read between the lines. You know, don't ignore that which you can't escape. See behind the curtain. You know, your curtain, other people's curtains, the curtain that you're always presented with of any kind of information came from somewhere and was assembled from somewhere, and in its projection there is a reason behind it. My reason for this projection is to share my vanity of thinking that my view of Pilates matters to me enough that it might matter to you. And even if you care nothing about Pilates, my identification of core new tension is my real claim to fame, because it goes beyond and doesn't really have anything to do with Pilates because of Pilates. It has to do with the body and the way the body engages itself to move through space. And that's biodynamics. Okay. So as an instructor of mine, especially if you're a licensed affiliate, it's important to know the difference between MMP and CT, Michael Miller Pilates, and core new tension. Core new tension is this huge application to any body, because all bodies embrace this kind of engagement to move through space, to the extent that they understand its nature, its design, or its structure, and how to engage in it intentionally. It's a good word, right? To do it intentionally is about going into tension, and from that you find the experience on your own. And from that, see, a lot of my students have said Michael Miller Pilates sets you free, which it does, because it explains the why of what Pilates is. Now, most of those students amazingly have gone off and then continued to but continued to focus on a compilation of their own creativity without an interest in identifying the MMP unique view, that it's unique, right? Why it's unique, and that it's transcendent. And then if none of that matters, the whole core new tension thing, so I've got in here add 2 and 2, and then direct your thinking. So if you're listening to this, you're interested enough, I hope, to hear the challenge for you to perceive what I have to say, so that at least I've hopefully done a good job of expressing what I have to say, so that you can make of it what you want. And to the extent that you recognize anything in common with what I say, and even better, that you recognize in terms of Pilates that MMP reflects the ideal within the work, right? understanding that ideal, understanding the experience that it points to, and how to achieve that experience. As an instructor, you'll be one in a million no matter how many more million people start doing Pilates, because not everyone can embrace or appreciate or be interested in Pilates in this way, right? It's just only so many. I enjoy it all because it all relies on my effort to translate what comes from within, say inspiration, and to let that go as freely, as clearly as I can. Geist.